Welcome to episode 13 of the 15-Minute Coffee Podcast with Brandon Salazar, your go-to destination for expert perspectives and valuable insights from the world of business. Today I'm here with Gregory Dell Omo, the president of Rider University. And before we get into the questions, I'd like to thank President Dell Omo for being a guest on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, let's start with tell me about your early career and life that led you to where you are today.
Well, when I graduated from college, I went into the corporate world and I worked in a New York City retail industry for about 6, 7 years. And while I did that, I was got my master's degree at Rutgers University at night in my area was in labor relations, human resources. And interestingly enough, I'd always wanted to become a college professor. When I was in college, I really enjoyed the college life. I was very involved in my campus. And but obviously going into the corporate world, and I was recently married, and we had bought a house in New Jersey and had our first daughter in New Jersey, and it was interesting. I always tell the story. One night, my wife and I put our daughter to bed. She was about a year old time, and in our house in Tinton Falls, New Jersey, and we were talking about our future. And I said, I always my dream was to go back and be a college professor, but to do that, you really need a PhD. And that takes a long time to get a PhD, even though I had the master's degree. One thing led to the next, and my wife has been very supportive, said, let's do it. And so I gave up the corporate life and sold the house and moved to Madison, Wisconsin, went to University of Wisconsin, spent the next 4 years there, got my PhD in labor relations there. And after I graduated from there, got my first academic job where I was a professor at Canisius College in Buffalo, New York. And then from there, my academic career just took off.
So a lot of what you decided to do in your early career, would you say is driven by passion?
Oh, no question. I enjoy going into the corporate world and getting that experience, and it really helped me. It actually helped me become a better professor, as opposed to if I went right into a PhD program right from undergraduate, which some people do. I feel I would not have had all that experience. But like I said, I always had that passion to be involved in college. Like I said, when I was in college myself, I really enjoyed the experience. And if I didn't have that passion, I would have never been able to do all the things we did in terms of making a complete career change, a complete lifestyle change, going back for a PhD and going through that process, which is very, very, it takes a lot of endurance and effort and intellect to do that. And it got me through those down times and those cold Madison, Wisconsin nights. And helped having a great partner, my wife. And so I went to Wisconsin with one child and came home with 2 children.
That's amazing. So touch upon the pivotal moment in your career, a pivotal moment or decision in your career that significantly impacted your trajectory in life.
Yeah, like I said, my goal was to be a professor, and that's what I wanted to do. And once I got the PhD, I started my academic job at Canisius College in Buffalo as an assistant professor in school of business. Teaching human resources management, labor relations. And I love being a faculty member, doing my teaching and my research. And it was really exciting. But I also knew since both our families are from New Jersey, so we wanted to get back to New Jersey. So I then took a job at St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia, again, as an assistant professor in a business school, doing the same thing, but just closer to family we lived in South Jersey, lived in Cherry Hill, but I commuted into Philadelphia every day. But probably the biggest transition was, and I never had any intention to get into academic administration. That's not something people usually have dreams of. No one ever dreams of being a college professor, a president, by the way. I mean, that just doesn't. It's usually not in anyone's thinking as they grow up. But when I was a professor in the business school at St. Joe's, and everybody has to sort of do their tour of duty, becoming a department chair. And so it was my turn to be department chair. I did that for a little while, but then. At that time, the business school at St. Joe's got a new dean who came from Boston College, and he sort of restructured the business school and created a new position of associate dean to be in charge of all the academics in the business school. And he asked me if I'd take that position. And I said, okay, I could do that, because I could do that and still be a professor. I was able to do both. And about a year into that position, the dean was let go by the university. And they ended up promoting me to dean of the business school at St. Joe's. And we did that about 4 years and had a great run. We accomplished a lot of things. But interestingly enough, after I did about 4 years of dean and really We built a brand new business school building. We did a lot of fundraising, got all the accreditations that we needed to get. I wanted to go back to faculty. I said, I've done my administrative stuff. I want to go back to being a faculty member and doing all that great stuff. And at the time, my boss, who was the provost at the university, he said, "No, you can't do that." I said, "What do you mean I can't do that?" He said, "No, we want to create a new vice president position for you because we really want to develop you into more senior administration positions." And the position they created for me was actually a very unique position. It was actually a combination of both the academic side as well as some of the more business side of running a university. And so on the academic side, I was still in charge of all the international academic programs. I was in charge of all the research centers on campus and doing all those kinds of things in terms of fundraising in Washington as well as in Harrisburg. But the main thing he wanted me to do, which I had no background for, was to be in charge of the university marketing operation. And I said, I don't know anything about marketing. I'm a management HR guy, He said, no. The university was going through a major rebranding of the university. And they wanted to make sure that they had somebody from an academic side of the university overseeing the branding study. I said, okay, well, I can do that. And I obviously had good people who knew the marketing stuff. And we really kind of restructured and rebranded the university from an academic standpoint. And that was exciting. And so I did that, like I said, for 3 years. Great run, great job. And at that point in time, I said, you know what? If you're ever going to think about being a president, now's the time to do it as a vice president moving on. And I said, let me try the market and see what happens. And I was very fortunate in my first year being out in the market as interviewing for jobs. I was able to get a job in relatively quickly and became president of Robert Morris University out in Pittsburgh and did that for 10 years as president there, had a great run there, and then came back to Rider as the next president of Rider back in 2015.
Nice. So would you say that changes that might not seem to be always the best cannot be as bad as you're thinking? So like
Absolutely.
taking
Absolutely.
risks.
I really, I mean, I was when I was ready to leave the dean's position at St. Joe's. I was dead set on just going back to faculty. I was going to push back on my boss. And he said, "No, Greg, give it a shot. Let's see how it works." I said, "Okay." And that's one of the life lessons. Sometimes when that opportunity is staring you in the face, my motto has always been, I never want to be like 70 years old and saying, I should have, or what if I did? And I said, what do I got to lose? I'll do it for a while. If it doesn't work out, I go back to faculty. I mean, I had that luxury of being able to fall back. And it worked out wonderfully. But, you have to be able to once in a while recognize the opportunity staring in your face and don't be afraid to take some risk. Even though, like I said, when he told me I was going to be in charge of marketing, I said, I know nothing about that. And he wanted me involved in government relations and he wanted me involved in community relations. And I said, well, maybe I can learn, and I'm game for a new adventure, and it worked out very, very well.
Yeah, so actually a great point that I learned from my macroeconomics professor at Rider is treat everything in life as an opportunity cost and a trade-off. And it took me quite a while to actually understand that, but looking back, even though it was this semester, it's a really good point because if you think of things, everything is not just a trade-off, it's opportunity cost. Like, yes, you're sacrificing one thing for another, but that one thing will lead to another thing and then further on. It doesn't just impact that one decision.
Well, I was also an economics major at my undergraduate degree, and so I clearly understand the opportunity cost. But you're absolutely right. I mean, and like I said, if people ask me, well, how did you become president? Or I said, I have no idea. It's just it was like I said, no one ever plans on, because in higher education, particularly, as you may know, I mean, there's always a gap between faculty and administration. And it's like we jokingly say when you go from faculty into administration, you're going into the dark side. And because everybody no one comes into this profession, particularly through the faculty ranks, wanting to be an administrator. It's like something you always want to avoid because we like our independence as faculty members. We love our teaching, our research, the other things we do as faculty members. And the administrative side is more like a burden. But once I got involved with it, I said, you know what? There are things, I think universities are going through some major changes. And therefore, if we're going to be able to help guide a university, you've got to be in a position to be able to do that. And that's one of the reasons why I was interested in becoming a president eventually, because I felt that I could have more impact on helping shape the long-term strategy of an institution.
Nice. And then this is for the freshmen for next year. What advice would you give to the incoming freshmen regarding getting involved at Rider and what could benefit them the most?
Well, as you know, we always talk about getting involved. But before you do that, I think it's important thinking about kids coming out of high school today, particularly the generation that went through COVID, and how that's impacted on people's just outlook in life. I tell students today, freshmen coming in, first of all, don't be intimidated by college, particularly at Rider. One of the things I think we do so well at Rider, we are a family, and we're here to make the transition for you as smooth as possible. And so I know it's nerve-wracking going from high school to college, and we've all been there, but it's really a situation that I want you to feel comfortable asking questions, listening, getting involved, going through all the orientations, getting, not being afraid to step back and listen and learn and start feeling comfortable with how you're going to handle both the academic side, the social side, and also the engagement side. And so I really want people to feel comfortable. It is a little intimidating, but don't let it really push you in the background where you become either aloof or you kind of are afraid to really get too involved. Getting involved and asking questions is critically important to help the transition process to college. And then the other key thing, I know sound like a parent, be organized. Try to be as organized as you possibly can. And we do things to help you learn how to be organized in college setting. Because remember, when you're coming to college, the first 12 years of your life, your educational life, have been very structured. Everything from elementary school through high school, every moment of the day has been organized for you, both in school as well as in whether you're involved in sports or other social activities. It's a very structured life you have. Once you get to college, a lot of that structure goes away. I mean, you're in control of everything. And we really want you to learn how to manage your time. That is probably one of the first things. Once you get beyond the orientation and you start getting, comfortable, sitting down and saying, how am I going to approach this, both the academic, social, and engagement ways. And once you figure that out, then it gets a lot easier.
Yeah, so what I would say is when you get to college, regardless of where you go, it's definitely overwhelming at the start, and it's very easy to get overwhelmed with everything. But I think my advice would be to just surround yourself with people that are going to help you in life. And that might seem pretty crazy to think as a freshman, but surround yourself with people that are going to help you in life. Do your best with your grades and definitely get involved and connect with as many people as you can. And
Absolutely.
regardless of what happens, I feel like that's a great way to just start. But
Yep.
that's how
You know,
I've
it's
been
in,
going about it.
coming out of COVID again, you know, this freshman class that came in this year was the first class since COVID that seems more engaged. Because the class just graduated. They're the class that really got hit hard with COVID. They didn't have a graduation, they didn't have proms. And so the freshmen coming in now, though, they had a little bit more of a normal college, high school experience. Not totally, but closer. And so hopefully that each class coming forward now feels a little bit more proactive and being engaged, as you said, listening and learning, getting, reaching out to people to help figure out how to deal with this transition.
So, and this leads to this question: what specific skills or qualities do you believe are most important to Rider students to develop and success to be successful in today's job market?
Well, this is where I think, and I just met with an outside. I spoke about Rider to a Rotary Club today in Robbinsville, and I talked about this. This is where I think Rider is really unique. The student engagement program is really important, and it is all designed to help students figure out how to take their academic development and then also apply it before they graduate. So as they're learning how to operate as a professional, whether it be through internships, research, study abroad, service learning, leadership roles, performance roles, all those categories of engaged learning at Rider that students are required to do as a condition of graduation, that begins to help you both learn how to apply your knowledge, but also learn how to operate in a professional setting. And that is really some of the things that we hear from employers today. It's not the student, and this is not just Rider, this is across the country, where students coming out today, and they may have the intellectual background, but they don't have the professional maturity. And this is where we feel the engaged learning process really helps combine the intellectual and the professional component. So when they do come out, they have a little bit more confidence. They have a little bit more sense of how we operate in a real world setting. And I think that's really important. And that's why I think things like internships and other practicums, as well as other components of the engaged learning program, really help a student understand. Now, you may not be able, you're not going to get an internship your freshman year probably, but that's why, again, getting engaged on campus, whether it be through student government or clubs and organizations, other activities on campus, again, developing those social skills to help you develop into a fuller person as you go out to the real world.
So I like how you mentioned the not getting internships first year, and that took me a while to understand when I was like going through that process. And I came to the understanding that while I know I'm not going to get like a genuine internship that is going to like a genuine internship, you have to start applying because if you don't
Yep,
start failing now, the failing cycle is going to happen. You're gonna get rejected the first few times you apply. So it's better to get your name in the door as
absolutely.
when you know you're not going to get it than before, when you really need to get it, and then you're getting
Yep,
rejected first time, second time. Because if they see
exactly.
you're applying and you're a freshman, and they see you're still applying for a job inside that company when you're a senior or junior, they're going to be like, "Wow, this kid had wanted it since first year freshman semester."
You're absolutely right. That's the message we send out. And that's why even, with the student engagement program, we combine that with having the career development folks working with your academic advisors, your navigation officers that help you from freshman year begin to think about, all right, I have 4 years basically to figure out how to have all these things kind of fall in place. Because no one comes into college as a 17 or 18-year-old knowing exactly what they want to do or how they're going to map this out. Again, that's where you need a lot of guidance in helping you figure out what you might want to do, what you want to experiment with, what kind of internships you might want to think about. When would you do it? Sophomore, junior year? Would you blend in maybe a study abroad if you can do that? You really need to think about it in a way that's sort of not totally mechanical, but it gives you the ideas of what I need to do over down the next 4 years to make this thing really become a viable and powerful experience.
Yeah, and I would say if like 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10 of the people that I connect with, like either if they're professors, older students at the school, just like faculty, they're always willing to step out of their way to help and make it like a point that they want to help, not just because they need to, they want to help. Like I've had many professors go out of their way to help me in like the long run, if either if it's with networking with other people in that industry, just introducing me to other people at recruiting events. So it's definitely something to get involved with. It's having a good relationship with your professor. So
Absolutely. It's funny you say that because you're absolutely right. And that's really a powerful part of the rider experience. But like I said, I was talking to a Rotary Club this morning and there were a number of rider graduates, but much older rider graduates. And even they were saying that that's what they remember most about their college experience was having that one or two faculty members who really guided them in their careers, helping them get through college. Some felt they couldn't make it and they were thinking about dropping out, but the faculty members, took them under their wing and said, "No, you can do this," and then they went on to have very successful careers. So it goes way back, and it's good to hear you say that.
that's actually a perfect portrayal of me as well, first semester. And it's funny because I would talk to my teacher about it, and he would say, "Brandon, you have great grades. You're a great kid. You're great at networking. Stay in school. Don't." Because I was going to do a software engineering boot camp, then come back to school maybe. But
Yeah,
he's like, "Stay in school. It's gonna be helpful in the long run." So that's definitely
absolutely.
something that changed me first semester.
That's good to hear. That's good to
So,
hear.
and then with our last question, what specific career advice do you have for current students?
Well, like I said, if you can do it, internships are probably the best. I mean, I would love to see every student, whether you're a county major or whether you're a philosophy major, everybody should be doing internships, and that's where again a key part of the student engagement program. But I think some of the more current things I give in terms of advice is don't rely on living in a virtual world. I think it's really important for young people, wherever profession you go into or wherever. Um, there's still a great deal of value of having the people to people contact, whether it be in a corporation, a large corporation, a small corporation, even in startups. I think it's really important to have that networking capability. and developing relationships, both in terms of having future network of connections, but also be able to show people what you can and can't do, and really kind of prove it yourself. I get concerned where a lot of students might want to think in a virtual world, which has a lot of convenience to it, and there's some real attractive components to it. It can be limiting in terms of long-term career aspirations. So I think that's really important. And the other one is the age-old advice. Again, like it's like almost like being organized for a college freshman, but realizing that your learning is going to be continuous. You never stop learning. And that's really important because the world's changing so quickly. Careers are changing so quickly. Industries are changing so quickly. Technology is changing so quickly. If you're not the kind of person that is just sort of wanting to absorb more information and learn and keeping your eyes open as to what's happening around you, it's very easy to get sort of stuck and have things pass you by. So really having, and I'm not saying jump at every little thing that comes your path, but be cognizant of what's going on and be constantly learning about things in your industry. And the last thing I always tell people, and again, this is one of those, sounds like, granddad talking to you, but be positive. There's too many negative people in the world. And there's nothing, and I know it's in today's time, it's very easy to get frustrated at times. But when people are not positive, if they're negative, there's no bigger turnoff. In work, whether you're working, like I said, in a small organization or a large corporation or whatever, having a positive outlook. And I'm not saying being like naive and sort of too Pollyannish, but saying we can solve problems. Let's figure out how to solve it, as opposed to, oh my God, the world's going to end tomorrow. Being positive is a great plus.
Yeah. And my advice with just failure, like, if you're nervous to introduce yourself in person, if you're nervous to be the standout student in class, always asking questions, just know that you're going to fail a few times before it becomes comfortable. And nothing in life is really comfortable. So I was pretty shy coming into college. And quickly I learned that if I'm going to keep being shy, I could stay like that, but it's not where I'm going to want to be in the next 5, 10 years. I'm not going to want to be that shy person. I want to be the outgoing and very confident person. So just try a few times before you say you're too afraid to do something or can't do something, because if you're going to learn in the long run, it's going to have to happen.
Right. And also, I think there's two components to that. One is, being comfortable dealing with ambiguity. I think sometimes we grow up in today's environment. It goes back to what I was talking about before, how your life is so structured before you get to college, in terms of your hours, what class you go to, what time you go to, what sporting event you go to, what practice you have, and so forth. And, there's a lot of ambiguity in the world. And if you're not comfortable working in that world of ambiguity and the uncertainty, it's very easy to get overwhelmed by that, and sort of shut down. Also, being open to different views and ideas. Not to get into politics too much, but we live in a very polarized environment today, where you're either one side or the other side, and they're the extremes, and we're not willing to kind of listen to each other and maybe learn from each other. And that goes back to the issue of being positive and being open and continuously learning about things.
Yeah, I like that point, because in like the real world, business world, you're not going to love everyone or like everyone you work with, but you still have to be respected. And like at networking events or any business professional event, you still have to be business professional. And that's like a good point, because being business professional, especially as a business student, is a great concept, because it's weird to see, but you see students like seeing freshmen at other events, you could tell there's like problems between it, but you have to stay business professional. That's a key point.
Absolutely. So that's
All right.
it.
As we wrap up, thank you for sharing your valuable insights and expertise with us. That wraps up episode 13 of the 15-Minute Coffee Podcast with Brandon Salazar. We hope you've enjoyed gaining insights from our guests and exploring the world of business with us. Don't forget to check out the podcast on our social media at the 15-Minute Coffee Podcast on YouTube and Instagram for upcoming episodes. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.